My 27-year-old cousin, Chloe, was marrying a man of 72. At their lavish wedding reception, she brazenly rendezvoused with her ex-boyfriend. In a private room, utterly unaware that I had arranged for their entire encounter to be broadcast live onto the massive screen set up on the main stage. Even her ex-boyfriend was part of my design. The wicked inevitably bring about their own ruin. Heaven never spares the malevolent. I am Dr. Evelyn Reed, a specialist in DNA analysis. The very first case I took upon returning to the country to open my own lab was, ironically, a paternity test for my cousin Chloe, her elderly fiancé, Mr. Harrison Vance, and her 5-year-old son, Ethan. Chloe, beaming unnaturally, gripped my hand tightly. Evelyn, cousin, she'd simpered, gesturing towards the old man and young boy beside her. I wouldn't trust anyone else with this. Please handle it for us. I nodded curtly, maintaining professional composure. I swiftly arranged for my assistant to collect the DNA samples for analysis, informing them the results would be ready in 3 days. But the very next morning, Chloe appeared at my apartment door, laden with expensive gifts. She bypassed me initially, throwing her arms around my mother's neck, launching into a tearful monologue about her own mother's early death and how my mom, her aunt, had always been so kind to her. She spun a convincing tale, leaving my soft-hearted mother dabbing at her eyes. Only then did Chloe turn to me, her expression shifting. Evelyn, she began, her voice dropping conspiratorially, you were studying abroad. For so long, we hardly saw each other. But in my heart, you've always been like my real sister. There's something I need to beg you for. I knew this cousin of mine. She'd been manipulative since childhood. Her sudden appearance screamed ulterior motive. What is it, Chloe? I asked evenly. To my astonishment, she dropped to her knees before me, tears streaming down her face. Evelyn, please, I'm begging you. Don't destroy my family. I stared, bewildered. What are you talking about? When have I ever done such a thing? You know I grew up without a mother, she sobbed, and I wasn't good at school. I started working young at 18. Then I finally met Harrison. He's a retired university professor, much older, yes, but so distinguished and kind to me. We fell in love, got engaged. But then, her voice broke, and she devolved into gut-wrenching sobs. My mother rushed to pull her up, her heart clearly breaking for Chloe. Chloe continued, sniffling dramatically, 6 years ago, when I was working late one night. I was assaulted, raped, and then I discovered I was pregnant. That's how Ethan was born. Now, Harrison. He's been hearing whispers, rumors. He insists on this paternity test. Evelyn, please, just this once, help me. If the truth comes out, I'll lose Harrison, and my son will lose the only father he's ever known. Her performance was harrowing, and for a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy for her supposed plight. However, I firmly refused. Chloe, I sympathize with what you claim happened, but I'm sorry. As a DNA analyst, my professional ethics are absolute. I cannot falsify results. Cousin, please, she pleaded, clutching my arm. Just change the report. You'll be saving a family. Can you really bear to watch us be torn apart? She laid the guilt on thick. Seeing my resolute expression, she shifted tactics. Harrison is over 70. I've stuck by him through thick and thin, even though he doesn't have much. But he has a serious heart condition. If he finds out the truth, the shock could kill him. I could lose everything. Are you trying to drive me to my death, Evelyn? Her words, couched in desperation, dripped with unveiled threats. My mother, easily swayed, jumped in. Evelyn, you must change that aerosol thing for your cousin. Look how miserable she is. Are you trying to kill her? Exasperated by my mother's naivety, I stood up to leave for work. My mother grabbed my arm, her voice tight with emotion. If you don't agree to help her today, consider our mother-daughter relationship over. Fine, I retorted, rolling my eyes as I walked out. I'll place an ad in the paper announcing it. I knew my mother's temper, fierce but fleeting. 3 minutes, tops. Chloe had barely finished her sob story that morning when an evening encounter completely shattered her narrative. My lab closed early, so I offered to pick up my best friend's child from a prestigious international kindergarten. To my surprise, I saw Mr. Harrison Vance there, waiting for his son, Ethan. 2 men in suits, clearly bodyguards, stood discreetly behind him. I approached him cautiously. Mr. Vance, hello. He recognized me. Dr. Reed. Are the paternity results ready? Not quite yet, I replied, then ventured carefully. I just returned from abroad, and Chloe hasn't kept much contact with the family. We had no idea she was engaged to such a distinguished university professor. Mr. Vance looked genuinely surprised. University professor? Who told you that? I'm a businessman. The ensuing conversation laid bare the truth. Harrison Vance was no retired academic. He was a multi-millionaire industrialist, owner of several automated factories in the region. Chloe hadn't met him through intellectual circles. She had been a worker on one of his factory lines. Using her youth and looks, she had seduced the much older, married man. He had kept her as his mistress for 7 long years. During that time, armed with the leverage of having borne him a son, or so he thought, Chloe systematically tormented Vance's wife and family, eventually forcing a divorce. He had finally agreed to marry Chloe, but with one non-negotiable condition, a paternity test to prove Ethan was indeed his flesh and blood. Listening to him, I felt a cold certainty settle in my stomach. This Machiavellian scheme, this calculated deception, it was exactly the kind of thing Chloe would orchestrate. She'd always disdained hard work, preferring shortcuts and manipulation. Her tearful performance that morning, the fabricated tale of tragedy, it was all a lie, a desperate ploy by a mistress clawing her way into a wealthy man's fortune. Back home, I recounted the truth to my mother. She initially refused to believe it, clinging to the image of the wronged, tearful niece. Her delusion didn't last long. The next day, my mother came to my lab with soup. As she sat in my office, the door burst open and Chloe stormed in. She completely ignored my mother, pointing a trembling finger at me, her face contorted with rage. Evelyn Reed, since you've already spoken to Harrison, you know everything. No point pretending anymore. My mother stammered, Chloe, what's going on? Chloe didn't even glance at her. You will change that paternity report to say Harrison is Ethan's father, she hissed, her voice low and menacing. Or you'll regret it. I remained impassive, refusing to engage. My mother, however, grew frantic. Chloe, let's talk calmly. Chloe shot my mother a venomous look. Look at the fine daughter you raised. If she dares to sabotage me, if she refuses to change that DNA report, I'll take Ethan to the best labs in Beijing and Shanghai. And when their results prove you wrong, I will sue you. I will hound you through the courts until you are bankrupt and ruined. Her aggressive stance, the raw fury in her eyes, was a world away from the pitiful victim she'd played the day before. My mother stared, utterly dumbfounded. I looked Chloe straight in the eye, my voice cold. I only report the facts. The fact is, my son is Harrison's biological child. Chloe spat, her face twisting into an ugly mask. Evelyn Reed, don't you understand? Ruining someone's fortune is like killing their parents. If you don't change that result, I will make you suffer. Even my sentimental, easily swayed mother finally grasped the situation. Crack. My mother slapped Chloe hard across the face. I'm doing this for my sister, your mother. How could you stray so far from the right path? Engaging in such deceitful, wicked schemes. Chloe clutched her stinging cheek, her eyes blazing with hatred. Push me too far, she snarled, and neither of you will escape unscathed. She stormed out, leaving a chilling silence in her wake. Her desperation wasn't unfounded. The official DNA report confirmed it. The probability of paternity between 72-year-old Harrison Vance and 5-year-old Ethan was practically zero. Biologically, they were strangers. When Chloe brought Mr. Vance to collect the report, I presented the unaltered findings. Vance exploded. He slammed the report down, his face purple with rage. Chloe Huang, you swore up and down that child was mine. Why is there absolutely no genetic link? You will never set foot in the Vance family home as my wife. He turned and left, fuming. Panic flashed across Chloe's face. In a fit of rage, she ripped the report to shreds, flinging the pieces in my face. Evelyn Reed, she screamed, trembling, you just wait. You will pay dearly for what you've done today. I tried to dismiss Chloe's threats, but a few days later, disaster struck my mother. Returning home alone from grocery shopping in the afternoon, she was followed into our apartment building by a masked man. He cornered her at our door, brandishing a fruit knife. Terrified, my mother immediately offered him money. But the man wasn't interested in robbery. You should think about what unforgivable things your daughter has done, he said coldly, his voice muffled. Who she's offended. How she's destroyed families. My mother gasped, Did Chloe send you? Who sent me doesn't matter, he sneered, waving the gleaming blade near her throat. What matters is making you pay. This was beyond anything my mother, living in peaceful times, had ever experienced. The sheer terror triggered a heart attack, and she collapsed unconscious. Presumably, the man only intended to frighten her. Seeing her faint, he quickly fled. Luckily, a neighbor stepping out to take out the trash saw our open door and my mother on the floor. They called emergency services immediately. I rushed to the hospital, signed the consent forms, and waited anxiously as my mother underwent emergency surgery. After 4 long hours, the doctors managed to save her life, but just barely. We reported the incident to the police, voicing our suspicions about Chloe. But our apartment building was old, lacking comprehensive surveillance. There was no clear footage of the attacker, and our suspicions about Chloe were just that, suspicions without concrete proof. The case stalled. Then, just a few days later, my DNA lab became the target. Around 2 a.m., I received a frantic call from the building security guard. My lab was on fire. By the time I arrived, firefighters were battling the blaze, but the interior was already gutted, reduced to ash and twisted metal. Thankfully, the fire hadn't spread to the rest of the building. The investigation revealed forced entry. Accelerant had been splashed inside, indicating deliberate arson. The perpetrator had skillfully avoided most security cameras. The few fleeting glimpses showed a figure heavily bundled, making identification nearly impossible, like finding a needle in a haystack. Staring at the smoldering ruins of everything I had worked for, my years of study, my investment, my dream, I crumpled to the ground, overwhelmed by gut-wrenching sobs. But the nightmare wasn't over. Misfortune continued its relentless assault. Still reeling from the destruction of my lab, I was served with a lawsuit. The plaintiff was a former client who had used my services for a paternity test. I was absolutely certain my results had been accurate. However, they adamantly claimed I had accepted a bribe to alter the results, leading to their separation. They brought in a nationally renowned DNA expert who performed a new test right there in the courtroom, comparing the child's DNA with the alleged father's. The moment the child was brought forward, my blood ran cold. It wasn't the same child the client had brought to my lab originally. But my lab records, my proof, had perished in the fire. I had no way to demonstrate the switch. The outcome was inevitable. The new test contradicted mine, making it appear my results were indeed erroneous. To make matters worse, investigators discovered a deposit of $200,000 in an old bank account of mine I rarely used. The plaintiff produced transfer records, insisting this was proof of the bribe I had supposedly solicited. Although the lawsuit was eventually dismissed due to reasonable doubt, benefit of the doubt to the defendant, my reputation within the professional community was irrevocably tarnished. The National DNA Accreditation Board convened and revoked my license. In the span of just half a month, I had endured my mother's near-fatal heart attack, the destruction of my career, and the ruin of my professional name. Once a promising young professional, I was now treated like a pariah, a cautionary tale. I spiraled into depression. One night, seeking numbness and alcohol, I stumbled out of a bar. Suddenly, headlights bore down on me. A car accelerated directly towards me, its engine roaring. A jolt of adrenaline shot through me. Pure instinct made me throw myself sideways. Despite my quick reaction, the car struck me with a glancing blow, sending me flying through the air. When I regained consciousness in a hospital bed, the first thing I registered was the heavy cast on my leg. It was broken. My mother sat beside me, weeping uncontrollably, murmuring about praying to our ancestors, thanking them that I had only lost the use of my leg, not my life. The driver was caught, but he maintained a consistent story. I was drunk and had staggered directly into his path. I knew, with chilling certainty, that I hadn't been that intoxicated. It was attempted murder. But I had no proof. Ultimately, the driver paid for my medical expenses and hospital stay, and the matter was closed. Case dismissed. I spent 3 agonizing months confined to the hospital, recuperating. Jobless, penniless, and spiritually broken, I transformed from a capable young woman into the very definition of failure in the eyes of friends and relatives. The day I was finally discharged, I returned home to find Chloe waiting for me at my door. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a smug smile playing on her lips. "Evelyn, cousin. So glad to see you back on your feet. I'm truly happy for your recovery." I shot her a cold glare. "Thanks for your concern." How could I not be concerned? She purred, tilting her head. After all, malicious people always get their comeuppance. Like you, cousin. Tearing families apart like that. It seems karma caught up with you awfully quickly. It just proves there's justice in the world, doesn't it? Seeing the undisguised venom in her eyes, the pieces clicked into place. The lingering doubts vanished, replaced by horrifying certainty. Chloe, I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage, it was all you, wasn't it? Harming my mother, burning down my lab, framing me for bribery, even hiring someone to run me down. It was all your plan, from start to finish. I knew humanity had a dark side, but I never imagined it could be this depraved, this calculatingly evil. Chloe casually flicked her hair back, her smile widening. Well, even if I denied it, you wouldn't believe me, would you? Cousin, consider this just a small lesson. A little taste of ruin and disgrace. Next time. It might just be the complete annihilation of your family. Her smile was beautiful, yet utterly chilling. Even if you thought I wronged you, I choked out, how could you hurt my mother? She treated you like her own daughter since you were little. Doesn't your conscience bother you at all? Auntie was good to me? Chloe scoffed. That was all for show. Making herself look noble by taking pity on the poor little orphan. It boosted her own reputation. Besides, she added airily, I didn't actually kill her, did I? She's still alive. Honestly, I've been quite merciful, all things considered. It struck me then. Arguing with Chloe was futile. Her wickedness was ingrained, bone deep. She tossed her hair again, her voice dripping with triumph. Oh, I forgot to tell you, cousin. I found a truly reputable expert to do another DNA test for Ethan and Harrison. Turns out they are 100% father and son, biologically speaking. After all, she smirked, with your reputation in tatters, why would Harrison ever believe your results? So that was another layer to her scheme, discrediting me to validate her future fabricated proof. My wedding is in 2 months, she declared brightly. I'll be officially marrying into the Vance fortune. Do come, cousin. Bring your dreadful mother along too. Ha 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 ha. Her laughter echoed down the hallway as she sauntered away, leaving me frozen in place, utterly stunned. This woman wasn't just manipulative, she was a monster. A burning sense of humiliation and injustice surged through me. Why? Why should I suffer ruin, nearly lose my life and my mother's, simply for upholding my professional ethics? While someone like Chloe, who committed heinous acts, gets to live happily ever after, marrying into wealth. No. I absolutely refused to let her succeed. I would expose her. I would make her pay for every single crime. Fueled by this newfound resolve, I began to plot my counterattack. First, I needed resources. The fire had wiped out my savings, all invested in the lab. My target was Harrison Vance's ex-wife, Mrs. Eleanor Vance. Eleanor was in her 60s. Though time had etched lines on her face, she carried herself with an undeniable elegance and quiet dignity. I laid out my purpose directly, without preamble. Eleanor studied me, her expression guarded, a mixture of skepticism and pain in her eyes. After a long silence, she murmured, I'll need to think about this. Mrs. Vance, I pressed gently but firmly, from what I understand, you and your daughter endured 7 years of persecution at my cousin's hands. You were ultimately forced out of your home with nothing. Are you truly content to let it end like this? My words visibly struck a nerve. Her face tightened. I knew the stories. How Chloe had allegedly bribed Eleanor's housekeeper to secretly administer psychiatric drugs, clouding her judgment. How Chloe had purportedly put abortifacients in her pregnant daughter's soup, causing a late-term miscarriage and rendering her unable to conceive again. The daughter had subsequently fallen into a deep depression, requiring constant care, unable to manage the family business interests. I knew how Chloe, taking advantage of Eleanor's drug state, had conspired with Harrison to have her sign away her assets and company shares in the divorce settlement. Eleanor had fought back, suing Harrison, but the signed documents, backed by lawyers, held up in court. She lost. In a rare moment of guilt or pity, Harrison had secretly provided her with a villa and several $1,000,000 in cash. Since then, Eleanor had lived in seclusion with her depressed daughter, rarely venturing out. My cousin is a viper, I continued, my voice low and intense. You and I are both her victims. Are you willing to stand by and watch this evil woman triumphantly marry into the Vance family? Who knows, she might even plot against Mr. Vance himself once she secured her position. I could see that despite Harrison's betrayal, a flicker of lingering affection remained in Eleanor's eyes. My final words sealed the deal. She looked at me, a new hardness in her gaze. $1 million, she stated, not as a question. Will that be enough? More than enough, I confirmed. Our alliance was forged. With Eleanor Vance's financial backing secured, I immediately traveled to a small, neighboring county town in search of Leo Gao. Leo was Chloe's ex-boyfriend. They had maintained an on-again, off-again relationship for years. Based on the timeline, unless something extraordinary had happened, Chloe's son, Ethan, had to be his biological child. I found Leo working as a manual laborer on a construction site. The sun had tanned his skin dark, but his features were sharp and well-defined, strikingly handsome, reminiscent of a young movie star. Most importantly, there was an undeniable resemblance between his eyes and brow structure and those of little Ethan. I'm Chloe Huang's cousin, I stated plainly. I need your help with something. Get lost, he muttered, not even looking up from the bricks he was hauling. His immediate hostility told me their relationship had ended badly, confirming my suspicion. I heard your grandmother is seriously ill, I persisted, and you're struggling to pay for her treatment. If you agree to help me, I'll give you $300,000. He dropped the bricks with a thud, turning to glare at me. What kind of despicable thing do you cousins want me to do now? My research had told me Leo was raised by his grandmother, was deeply devoted to her, and fundamentally decent, despite having been foolishly infatuated with Chloe years ago. She had eventually discarded him for reasons unknown. It's my cousin who nearly got me killed, I explained earnestly. I need your help to ensure she faces the consequences she deserves. Seeing his skepticism, I recounted the entire saga, the falsified DNA test, the threats, the attack on my mother, the arson, the framing, the hit and run. He kicked viciously at a loose brick on the ground. Chloe Huang, he spat, his voice thick with bitterness. She's pure venom. Vicious. To force me to break up with her back then, she threatened my grandmother's life. And he held up his right hand. She had someone cut off my little finger. Indeed, his right hand only had 4 fingers. Tell me what you need me to do, he said, his decision made. I outlined my plan. Then, I transferred half the promised amount, $150,000, to his account immediately, urging him to arrange for his grandmother's surgery. The remaining half would be paid upon the plan's successful completion. 7 days after my return to the city, Leo Gao arrived as planned. He thanked me profusely. The money had allowed his grandmother to have the necessary surgery, and her condition was now stable and slowly improving. I took him for a haircut, bought him a stylish new wardrobe. The transformation was remarkable. Already handsome, Leo now looked exceptionally sharp and charismatic. I could suddenly understand how even my money-obsessed cousin could have once fallen for this penniless young man. He had a certain magnetic quality. That evening was Chloe and Harrison Vance's engagement party. I brought Leo as my date. On the way, Leo confessed his nervousness. Chloe had warned him years ago that if he ever showed his face in the city again and jeopardized her plans, she would have his entire hand chopped off. Yet, once we arrived at the opulent venue, he projected an air of calm confidence that didn't disappoint. I introduced him to everyone as my boyfriend, Leo Gao. Some relatives, who secretly disliked Chloe's arrogance, seized the opportunity to praise Leo. What a handsome young man, Evelyn. And so young. You two make a perfect couple, truly well matched. Then, another relative commented innocently, Leo certainly is good-looking, but he seems familiar. Oh, I know. He looks a bit like little Ethan, doesn't he? You're right, others chimed in. The resemblance is quite striking. A hidden smile touched my lips. Of course, they look alike. They're father and son. Chloe's face turned a shade of pale green. Under the guise of wanting a private chat, she pulled me aside, her voice a low snarl. Evelyn Reed, what is the meaning of this? Meaning of what? I asked, feigning confusion. Bringing him here? Are you trying to ruin my engagement? She hissed, gesturing subtly towards Leo. Playing dumb, I replied. Do you two have some history? That seems unlikely. Leo is such a decent, kind man, very devoted to his family. Then again, I added thoughtfully, you are known for being unscrupulous. Unsure if I was bluffing or genuinely ignorant, and desperate to avoid a scene at her engagement party, Chloe forced a tight smile. I must have mistaken him for someone else. She plastered on a composed expression and returned with me to the banquet table. Throughout the meal, Leo played the part of the attentive boyfriend perfectly, showering me with affection. Chloe watched us, her brow furrowed with irritation. I knew then. The first phase of my plan was working. A beautiful young woman marrying a man old enough to be her grandfather was undoubtedly doing it for money. Seeing me, her supposedly ruined cousin, with her handsome, discarded ex-boyfriend, acting so intimate, it was bound to stir feelings of jealousy and possessiveness in someone like Chloe. She wouldn't be able to resist the urge to conquer him again. Sure enough, not long after the engagement party, Leo received a call from Chloe. She wanted to meet, just to talk. Leo clipped a micro camera onto his collar, allowing me to watch the entire meeting unfold live via a secure feed. They met at a secluded cafe, nearly empty due to lingering pandemic concerns. The moment Leo sat down, Chloe's expression turned icy. Leo Gao, she began, her voice laced with menace. Weren't you satisfied with just losing one finger? Are you hoping to lose the whole hand this time? Following our script, Leo reached across the table, grasped her hand, and gazed at her with profound emotion. Everything I'm doing, isn't it all for you, Chloe? For our son. Chloe snatched her hand back. What are you talking about? What son? You don't have to lie to me anymore, Leo said softly. I know Ethan is my biological son. He looks exactly like me. Anyone who knew we were together back then can see it instantly. So, Chloe's eyes narrowed suspiciously. You're here for revenge? Of course not, Leo exclaimed, his voice filled with passion. I'm here because I love you. I admit, when you had my finger cut off, I hated you. But these past few years, I haven't stopped thinking about you. Chloe, I love you. He leaned forward, pressing kisses onto her hand. Chloe struggled momentarily, then relented, allowing the contact with a mixture of resistance and compliance. Still suspicious, she asked, why are you pretending to be Evelyn's boyfriend? What's your real motive for getting close to her? Leo delivered the lines we'd rehearsed. I met her by chance at the hospital, when I later found out she was your cousin. I missed you so terribly, Chloe, but I didn't dare approach you directly. Using her seemed like the only way to get close to you again. Chloe seemed partially convinced. He continued, you're stunningly beautiful, Chloe. Evelyn is just ordinary. After having known you, how could I possibly be interested in someone like her? It's like comparing the ocean to a puddle. Chloe, always confident in her ability to charm men, seemed to buy this flattering explanation. Leo then added a layer of feigned concern. There's another reason I'm staying close to Evelyn. I get the feeling she harbors deep resentment towards you. I'm worried she might try to harm you. Chloe, what exactly happened between you two? Hearing his apparent sincerity and concern for her safety, Chloe finally let her guard down completely. She spun a fabricated tale about me being selfish, petty, paranoid, and generally difficult, easily dismissing her own actions. Leo then asked, his voice filled with earnestness, Chloe, you're still so young. You don't really want to spend the rest of your life with that old man, Harrison Vance, do you? I'm not asking you to leave him. Just knowing I can see you sometimes, that would be enough for me. Through the camera feed, I couldn't see his expression, but I imagined it was one of utter devotion. Chloe finally melted. I can't stand the old man's smell on him either, she confessed bitterly. But if I leave him now, I get nothing. I have to marry him first. So, what do we do? Leo pressed gently. We have time, Chloe whispered, leaning closer. We can meet secretly once in a while. But nobody can find out. Once I get my hands on the old man's assets, then we can be together again properly. It was clear, Harrison Vance, despite his wealth, couldn't satisfy Chloe's desires. Faced with Leo, young, handsome, seemingly devoted, and willing to forgive her past cruelty, she quickly succumbed, falling back into his arms. They rented a room for a discreet tryst. Leo turned the camera off for this part. Afterwards, they solidified their plan. Leo would continue pretending to be my boyfriend as cover, while Chloe would pressure Vance to expedite the wedding. Once she secured his fortune, they would finally be together openly. I harbored a slight fear that Leo might genuinely fall back under Chloe's spell and betray our plan. He proved more resolute than I anticipated. I know Chloe too well, he told me later, a cold sneer on his lips. Right now, my reappearance fills a void for her, the loneliness and boredom of being with that old man. That's why she's sweet-talking me. The moment she decides I'm no longer useful, she'll discard me without a second thought. Or worse, eliminate me permanently. His chilling assessment reassured me. Over the following months, Chloe contacted Leo with increasing frequency. Their clandestine meetings invariably followed the same pattern: rendezvous, hotel room. After one such encounter, Leo discreetly switched the camera back on. According to plan, he broached a new topic. "Chloe," he began casually, "I've been looking for a decent job, but nothing suitable has come up. Could you maybe arrange a position for me at your fiancé's factory? It would make seeing each other so much easier." "Absolutely not," Chloe retorted instantly. "If you need 10 or 20,000, I can give it to you. But working at the factory? Impossible. What if Harrison finds out? It would ruin everything." Leo remained calm, steering the conversation. "Haven't you heard the saying? The most dangerous place is often the safest. I hear Harrison hardly visits the factory anymore. You're basically running the show. If you bring me in as your cousin's boyfriend, who would suspect anything? It would make our secret meetings much more convenient." Chloe pondered this for a moment, then slowly nodded. "You have a point. Everyone sees you as Evelyn's boyfriend. No one would connect you to me." "Exactly," Leo affirmed. "But I'm warning you, Leo Gao," Chloe added sharply, her eyes narrowing. "You and Evelyn are strictly pretend. Just a cover. If you dare actually sleep with her, you'll face my wrath." "Of course not," Leo quickly reassured her, his voice dripping with flattery. "Evelyn isn't even attractive. How could she compare to you? You're intoxicating, captivating, even in bed." Chloe giggled, mollified by his compliments. And just like that, under Chloe's arrangement, Leo Gao secured a position as an office director at Harrison Vance's factory, a cushy, well-paid sinecure that required little actual work. Once inside, Leo and Chloe's trysts became even more frequent, their relationship seemingly deepening. One afternoon, suggesting the office offered a more thrilling backdrop, Leo lured Chloe to his new workspace. He plied her with drinks until she was tipsy, then expertly coaxed her office computer password out of her. While she dozed drunkenly on the office sofa, he swiftly copied years' worth of fraudulent accounting records onto a hidden USB drive. Our suspicion about the fake book stemmed from Chloe's earlier bragging during one of their encounters, boasting that she already had enough money to last 10 lifetimes, even before marrying Vance. Given Harrison hadn't formally transferred significant assets to her yet, the only logical sources were embezzlement or illicit side deals using the factory infrastructure. Our guess hit the bullseye. With this damning evidence in hand, Leo and I prepared to close the net. The accounting fraud alone was enough to ensure Chloe faced serious consequences. But then, the situation escalated dramatically. Leo and I were meeting with Eleanor Vance, showing her the evidence and strategizing our next move, when Leo's phone rang. It was Chloe. It wasn't time to reveal our hand yet. Leo activated his micro camera and hurried to meet her at the apartment she had rented for their secret rendezvous, their love nest. The moment he walked in, Chloe threw herself into his arms, sobbing dramatically. "Leo," she cried, clinging to him, "do you truly, truly love me?" "Of course I love you," Leo replied gently, playing along, waiting for her next move. She pulled up her sleeve, revealing faint bruises on her arm. "Look," she choked out between sobs, "and my legs too. Harrison, that old man, he's a pervert. He's too old to perform, so he finds other ways to torment me. He hurts me, Leo. I can't take it anymore." She buried her face in his chest, her body shaking with fabricated tears. Leo comforted her patiently, waiting for the punchline he knew was coming. Finally, after a prolonged display of misery, she looked up, her eyes gleaming with a desperate, dangerous light. "Leo, the wedding is just 1 week away. Harrison and I will be married. But I only want to be with you. I can't bear another day of that old man's abuse. Will you help me kill him, Leo? Kill him?" The request, though perhaps predictable given Chloe's nature, still sent a chill down Leo's spine. Even watching remotely, Eleanor and I gasped in unison. "Yes, kill him," Chloe hissed, her voice dropping to an intense whisper. "Once he's dead, all his assets will belong to me, to us. We can get married properly legally. You, me, and our son, Ethan. We can finally be a real family, Live happily ever after. How would we do it? Leo asked, feigning shock and hesitation. A few days after the wedding, Chloe outlined eagerly, I'll find an excuse to lure him to a remote country road, somewhere with no cameras. You'll be waiting. You drive the car. And hit him. Make it look like a tragic accident. She made a sharp, cutting gesture with her hand. Leo remained silent, letting her continue. Killing someone in a traffic accident, Chloe reasoned, her voice hardening. Even if you're caught, it's usually settled with compensation, especially if the family agrees to reconcile. Leo, for me, for our son. Just do this one thing. We'll have more money than we can ever spend. A lifetime of luxury. She pressed herself against him, pulling his hand towards her suggestively, lowering her neckline. Leo still appeared hesitant. He knew Chloe was ruthless, but this level of calculated murder was shocking. Chloe writhed against him, trying to ignite his desire. For our future? For me and our son? Won't you even take this small risk? Leo, regaining composure slightly, countered, What if you do the killing and I act as lookout? Chloe instantly recoiled, aghast. Me? Get blood on my hands? Absolutely not. If I have blood on my hands, what would happen to our son? So it's okay if I get blood on mine? Leo challenged. Forced to backtrack, Chloe quickly adopted a concerned tone. Leo, darling, think about it. If something happens to my husband so soon after the wedding, the police will immediately suspect the spouse, me. If I get caught, you won't see a penny. I'm only asking you to do it for your own protection, truly. She poured out more honeyed words, manipulative justifications. Leo eventually pretended to be swayed, reluctantly agreeing to her horrific plan. But Chloe, ever cautious and cruel, wasn't satisfied with just one method. For added insurance, she instructed Leo to procure some slow-acting poison. He was to find a way to administer it to Harrison. If the car accident failed, the poison would eventually finish the job. When Leo recounted this conversation to me, he was still visibly shaken. He had initially assumed Chloe's renewed interest was merely jealousy-fueled possessiveness. He hadn't anticipated her endgame, manipulating him into committing murder, planning to frame him afterwards. Once Harrison was dead, she could easily point the finger at Leo, the spurned ex-lover. He would go to prison, while she, the grieving widow, would inherit Harrison's entire fortune and live freely. The sheer, calculated wickedness of her plan was breathtaking. Leo asked me what to do next. I obtained some ordinary vitamin supplements, crushing them into powder to resemble a chronic poison. Leo presented this poison to Chloe. True to form, Chloe refused to even touch the powder, instructing Leo to go to Vance's office and discreetly swap it with Harrison's regular medication. This act further confirmed her intention. She was setting Leo up, ensuring her own hands remained clean while he took all the risks and potential blame. Soon, the day of Chloe and Harrison Vance's wedding arrived. The ceremony was held at an ultra-luxurious 5-star hotel. Harrison had spared no expense, booking the entire sprawling 10,000 square meter lawn behind the hotel. An elaborate, custom-built stage dominated the space, complete with professional hosts and entertainers. Thousands of guests were in attendance, the cream of the city's society, prominent figures from politics and business, along with relatives from both the Vance and Huang families. Even Eleanor Vance arrived, accompanied by her daughter, looking frail but composed. Chloe shot them a look of utter disdain, clearly dismissing the elderly woman as irrelevant. Little did she know, this frail old woman was the silent financier behind her impending downfall. The wedding ceremony proceeded with extravagant pomp. On stage, Chloe delivered a saccharine, tearful vow to Harrison, declaring her love was genuine, not motivated by his wealth, but by his irresistible charm. After the nauseating performance concluded, Leo, following our plan, approached Chloe under the guise of offering a toast. He smoothly steered her away from the crowd towards a pre-selected private room. This room was rigged. We had installed multiple hidden cameras and, at considerable expense, bribed the event's technical director to route the live feed directly to the giant LED screen on the main stage outside. Inside the room, Leo pulled Chloe into a passionate embrace. "You look absolutely stunning today," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "A pity this dress isn't for me." Chloe gazed up at him, her eyes smoldering. "But you always said I look best with nothing on at all," she purred suggestively. Their intimate dialogue, their sensual postures, all broadcast in high definition for thousands of guests to witness. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd as the movie began playing on the giant screen. Whispers erupted. Isn't that Evelyn Reed's boyfriend? What's he doing fooling around with the bride? Playing my part, I dabbed at my eyes with a handkerchief, looking heartbroken. I don't know what's happening, I stammered pitifully. Why would my dear cousin seduce my boyfriend? I then retreated to stand beside Eleanor Vance, watching the drama unfold with grim satisfaction. Inside the room, Leo continued according to script. I needed to talk to you today, he said seriously, pulling back slightly. Watching you up there with your husband, you seemed so devoted. Why do you still want me to run him down with a car? His words hit the stunned audience outside like a thunderclap. Harrison Vance's face, visible on camera close-ups, turned thunderous. Chloe, completely oblivious to being broadcast live, scoffed. Are you jealous now? That decrepit old fool should have died years ago. He's just wasting air. You have to get rid of him for me, Leo. Then, our good life can finally begin. But you already gave him the slow-acting poison, Leo pressed, guiding her deeper into incriminating territory. Isn't hitting him with a car redundant? Seeing him alive for even one more day makes me sick. Chloe spat venomously. You have no idea how miserable I've been, pretending to care for that disgusting old man all these years. Please, Leo, you have to kill him for me. I only love you. I only want to be happy with you and our son, Ethan. She clung to his shoulder, starting to fake cry again. You say Ethan is my son, Leo countered calmly, but the official DNA test said he was Harrison's. You're not lying to me, are you? That was easy, Chloe boasted shamelessly. I bribed the DNA analyst who did the second test. A few $100,000 was all it took. Not like my cousin Evelyn, that self-righteous fool, insisting on ruining everything by telling the truth. Speaking of Evelyn, Leo probed, holding her close. I heard her lab was burned down. She was framed for bribery. Someone tried to run her over, and her mother had a heart attack after being threatened. That was all you're doing, wasn't it? Of course, it was me. Chloe admitted with a cold laugh, feeling completely secure with her accomplice. That woman ruined my plans. Just because she has a fancy education, she thinks she's better than everyone. She clearly believed their conversation was private, untraceable once they left the room. Leo gently traced her jawline. You really are a wicked woman, he murmured, almost admiringly. You embezzled a fortune from your husband's company, enough to last lifetimes. You destroyed his first wife and got her thrown out. Why resort to murder now? Chloe bristled at his continued questioning. Leo Gao, are you backing out? Do you not want to help me kill Harrison? Why else keep asking these useless questions? Are you even a man? Won't you protect the woman you love and your own son? Leo gently pushed her away, shaking his head slowly. No, Chloe, I won't. Because unlike you, I am not completely evil. I still have a shred of humanity left. As his words hung in the air, the door to the room burst open. A grim-faced Harrison Vance stood there, flanked by security guards and several stern-looking individuals. Chloe froze, her mind struggling to comprehend the scene. She quickly tried to smooth her hair, forcing a bright, panicked smile. Harrison, darling, what are you doing here? Leo, Evelyn's boyfriend. He was just asking me about some company matters. I was explaining things to him. He's really quite slow, you know. She frantically tried to signal Leo with her eyes. Leo met her gaze, his expression cold as ice. Chloe, he stated clearly, everything we just discussed, everything we did, it's been broadcast live on the big screen outside. Thousands of guests have seen and heard every single word. The color drained from Chloe's face, leaving it a ghastly white. Seeing the unforgiving expressions on Harrison's and the others' faces, she knew it was true. A piercing shriek escaped her lips. Leo Gao, you set me up. I'll kill you. She lunged for a decorative fruit knife on a nearby table, aiming it wildly at Leo. Before she could reach him, two wedding security guards surged forward, wrestled the knife away, and subdued her struggling form. Minutes later, the wail of police sirens filled the air. Chloe, screaming curses and threats, was handcuffed and led away. Leo was also escorted by police to provide a statement. And so, Chloe Huang's reign of terror, her web of deceit and cruelty, came crashing down in the most public and humiliating way possible. During the subsequent investigation and trial, Chloe desperately tried to drag Leo down with her, insisting the poison Harrison had been taking was provided by him. However, laboratory tests confirmed the substance was nothing more than harmless vitamins. Confronted with the undeniable truth of Chloe's character, Harrison Vance swiftly annulled the sham marriage. He disowned her completely and sent her and Ethan packing. He then sought out Eleanor, begging for forgiveness. He reinstated her, handed over control of the family finances, and vowed to remain faithful. Moved by their long history, Eleanor eventually chose reconciliation. The court confiscated all of Chloe's ill-gotten assets. A portion was awarded to me as compensation for the damages I suffered, and the rest was seized by the state. When Chloe learned that Leo and I had orchestrated her downfall, she screamed threats from the defendant's dock, vowing revenge. But I knew she would never get the chance. Found guilty of multiple serious crimes, including conspiracy to commit murder, arson, fraud, assault, and intimidation, Chloe Huang was sentenced to life imprisonment. The rest of her days would be spent behind bars. With my name cleared and my reputation restored, I reopened my DNA analysis lab, ready to rebuild my career, stronger and more determined than before. Leo took his biological son, Ethan Gao, home with him. He found a steady job and dedicated himself to working hard, determined to provide a good life for his small family. We became good friends, Leo and I. Sometimes I asked him if he ever regretted his role in sending Chloe to prison. His answer was always firm. Never, he'd say, his gaze steady. Because I believe in karma. What goes around, comes around. The wicked always pay. End.